All right, welcome back. We are COMP229 in the summer 2022 semester at Centennial, and it's week 13 of our broadcast and recording together. And this week is a special week because we have 1 week left before the final. And let's talk about the evaluation. So really, we're into the last push. So the final release, and I talked about last week about making it pretty, making sure your reporting is working and all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to ask you guys if anyone's ready to show me what they've got. That's what I want to start with. And then your final presentation, again, both of those two pieces are weighted the heaviest of all the rest. Okay, so that's something to note. And I mean the rest of the project pieces, which are these ones, right? So, and the reason why I've done this, some people have questioned always like, why is a presentation worth 15% of your final grade? And the reason why I've done this is, well, it kind of takes the place or replaces your final exam in this course. So there is no final exam or final test. It's just your final presentation. It's a chance for you to showcase your work as well. And so I get you as a team to get together and put something together for the final week. As an example, that's why the final presentation is weighted at 15%. Okay, so it's not a small amount. On the same side, it's not the hardest thing to do. Okay, so presentations are pretty straightforward. I think if you have your materials and you have a good presenter, you're confident and all that kind of stuff when you speak, I think it's good. It typically boosts your mark. It doesn't reduce your mark. That's typically what happens. Unless, and I got to put this out there too, if you're missing your final release, your authentication release, and your first release, if you don't have your technical stuff done, well, then your presentation will not be good, right? Because it depends on all this other technical stuff. Okay, so that's what's happening there. So we're at week 13. And so I want to do a couple things this week, a little different. No tech discussion today. I'm not going to talk React anymore or anything else. And the reason for this is because we really have to focus on your presentation at this point. And I want to get a sense of your team progress. I'm going to ask if anyone's ready to show me their stuff to give you feedback before the final release is ready to go. Stuff that's due. Project Part 4, your final release is due Monday, August 15th. And if you look at the calendar, just really quickly, you can see that it is exactly 1 week today. 1 week today. Your final release is due by midnight on Monday. And it's made like that for a couple of reasons. One, you really should be at code freeze at this point for the most part. You're not supposed to add many more things other than your reporting piece, right? That's the reporting piece. So I could have made it on Sunday. Typically, we would make it due on Sunday, and then everything else. I made it on Monday to give you that extra day. As an example, some people need that extra day to get things done, especially over the weekend and stuff, where work is a little bit lower than every other time. Just putting it up there, right? So that's something that's going on. So that is the stuff that's going on there, and then the final presentation is going to be supposed to be during class time next week. So next week on class time, I'm going to ask anyone who's ready to go to present. By that time, you should have everything ready to go. When you present, I'll give you your marks that day. So you'll have your marks uploaded and everything else. Typically what we would do is if we were presenting in class, let's suppose if you and I were in class, we went to Centennial and I got you guys to come up there and whatever, it would be mandatory attendance next week. That's what I would ask for you guys to do because, you're kind of looking at you're helping your teammates and all that kind of stuff. The challenge with making it mandatory is because we have a combined section, right, that some people are combined with other people from Wednesday in our little group here, right? So who presents? The people on Wednesday, the people on Monday? Is it fair? That's why I'm making it optional, right? So worst case, you submit your final documentation and your presentation, your video, and all that stuff by the Friday of the following week. Okay, so I'm talking about that last week, right? So it would be due on the Friday, the 19th would be the last day that you can submit your presentation materials, your video, and everything else you need. Okay, so that is the final day. Weekly reports, of course, due this Sunday. Your last weekly report is due this Sunday. coming out pretty much. And your final peer review is due on Monday, August 15th. Okay, that's when it's due. And your final peer review basically represents how you and your team have been doing the entire time. So that is what's happening in terms of your marks and with everything else. I want to talk about this document, which is the document around your final presentation. That's what I want to be discussing today in more detail, because I know people need this to make sure that they know what is required of them. I want to do that. But first, what I want to talk about with you guys is, does anyone have anything to show us right in class before we move on? So it'd be nice to see, kind of your website, where it's at right now. I can give you feedback on your CSS, your layout, all those kind of things before the final day when you present next week. And there's any changes or layout, adjustments you have to make, today is a good day to do it. So anyone want to share their stuff before we move on? If anyone doesn't, it's okay if you don't want to. I just want to provide you advanced feedback so that way you don't have to wait till next week.
Good morning.
Elias, how you doing, my friend?
Oh, good. Oh, good. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Um. Well, I was asking my teammates if I can share.
Okay. Do you want to do that?
Oh, so yeah, maybe you can give us, advice. Not hard stuff to change, please.
No, I'm going to try not to. But if I see something that's wrong, I'll tell you. Right. So, okay. So if you want to, do you want to share me your just pop your site into the chat and I'll put it up for everybody, or how do you want to do it?
Give me the option to share.
Okay, just a moment. Yep, I will stop sharing myself, and then we'll go into you to share. I'll just pop you up there right here, and then you go whenever you're ready to go.
Okay. Can you see it, right?
It's coming. Yeah, there you go. All right, excellent. Yeah.
So this is it. Mega Survey is our web app. So we have the survey list. Here is look out, because I was validating right now. So this is Heroku. So this is the main page, survey list. Everybody can see the service, just answer it, and the owner. This is about us, contact. So I can go here, create survey. It will take me to the login. If I try to create it from the main page, let me log in. This is the survey that I created, Elias. Look out, I see my name here. If I click my name, I can edit my user. Elias Penalty, I can change everything. It is working good. Password. I can even change the password there. Now it changes here. I added an E at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Let me try user admin. Yeah, these are the surveys created by this admin user. I can answer it, edit. You saw the edit before, so to the edit, we added what you suggested, the time too. So here in the date picker, we changed this to put the hours too.
That's good.
That is good. We added the active survey. It's like a toggle.
That's good.
That was another suggestion you made for us last time.
Yep.
And we put this to work good. The question edit. So yeah, that was the second, right? Yeah, this is the two I added, and this is the time.
Okay.
That's it. Because the time passed, you see now it's not active, it's disactive. So if I put a day that passed, we fixed that. That was another feedback you gave us last time.
Yep.
Let me see what else. Oh, I can delete.
It's okay. It's okay. I believe you can delete. Okay,
Okay.
let's go to statistics. I want to see that.
Statistics, it's basic. It's not complete. It's like the reporting part. It's just showing, for example, the questions for the survey, the number of responses, and we need to put like not the value, we need to put like false is false, true, true, and this is like the answer that was given for every number of responses, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this is okay for you, or if you want another thing else to add here.
No, this is okay, but again, reporting is reporting. It's just fine. My question to you is: I only see true false questions. Is that the only type you offer right now?
No, 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 no. This is because the survey I clicked to see the responses was
Oh,
true
it's all
false.
true false. Okay.
Let me click this course quality view. So this is, for example, this is the elective, but we need to adjust this.
Okay.
This is very satisfactory, very satisfactory. We need to put like the real values.
Okay.
That's another thing we need to add. But this is satisfactory. This means very satisfactory. This is like the type of answers. But let me show you.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh,
And when you make a
for example,
survey, yeah, go ahead. Oh, that's nice. Okay, I like it.
So, for example, if I click this, it will say VU. If I click this, so in the statistics or reporting, we are showing the value. So we need to do like to show the proper value, like not BS. So yeah, that's a little change we need to add there.
Okay.
And yeah, that's. Oh, another interesting thing, dude. This was good. We added this export. I put a timeout here. It takes a little 2 seconds. So yeah, it is working too. I can save an Excel file and then put my text stuff. And this is working too. So here is the file, and we can export whatever we have here in the reporter and statistics part. It was a little bit challenging because it was saving it in the project main file system. So we need to did a few stuff to make it possible to download it and use it from with jQuery too. Yeah, it was a little bit challenging, but we were able to do it. And I don't know, this is our progress from last time you gave us feedback. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. So a couple things, questions for you would be when it comes to your question types. Can you only have one question type per survey, or can you have multiple question types per survey?
What question type per survey? You create a survey and you define the type of survey.
Yeah, I think it would have been nice for you to have at least two different kinds of question types per survey, right? That's would be nice to have. I have to be honest and say that. But the functionality that you've shown so far is very good. I think all the things that you've shown me is exactly what I'm looking for, and extra stuff. Like for example, the fact that you can do modify your user and all that stuff the way you've done it, change your password, which can be quite challenging sometimes. So these are all good things that extra features that you've added in that are good. I think your design is okay. I would like to see, and let me take control again, Elias. I want to talk about it a little bit, right? So, yep.
So I have a question, Professor.
Yes.
I know that my teammates, maybe my teammates will love me to ask this. For you, is mandatory to add like multiple type of answers, or is a recommendation optional? What do you think? Like, because for example, we created the type of service, but that would require more effort to create like at least 2 types in the same service. So I don't know if this is.
It's not mandatory. No,
Okay.
It's not mandatory, but it's nice to have. Like I said, I would have liked to see that with you because it is more. It's kind of up where I'd like it to be for you guys in terms of complexity, because then you know how to juggle between different question types and stuff. But it's fine if it's kind of we're at the end. So for me to make that change, it's a pretty big change, right? So
yeah, exactly.
But anyways, let's talk about your layout. So your layout's basic, okay, and I mean that in terms of it's okay, it's nice. The things to check with your layout, and I'm just looking at you should be able to see this too. If I'm looking at your site, the stuff that I look at is number one, layout. Is it responsive? And so here it would be your survey. If I was going to do this survey just like as is, right? So for example, if I wanted to see this survey list, this needs to be responsive. And right now it seems it is not. Okay. So stuff that we talked about last time, and I'm just talking about functionality wise before we get into layout and all that stuff, right? So this is a must-have. This isn't a possibility or an option. It's must-have. And the reason for this is because see the buttons, right? At the end of the day, right? Your buttons need to, the whole chart or the table needs to be responsive, right? There's some tricks to getting this done, okay, so that it doesn't kill you, because that's not the point of this exercise, right? So here's what it normally looks like, and you have answer survey. But remember, what you can do is you can balance what's written inside of this thing depending on the width of your screen. So for example, when the width becomes like this, you can get rid of the answer survey text. Text can go away and it just becomes a button. That's one way of kind of collapsing things. Because a lot of times when you put it on a mobile phone, a mobile device, or something that looks like this in terms of your form factor, your orientation, then again, what you want is for you to have less information where it is. The other thing is you have a lot of information on your survey list that you can remove. Remember that even the dates and the owner's not required. Like, no one needs to know who made it. It's only for you, right? Like, this is for your own data. No one needs to know this. The survey name is important. The number, like number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is not required. No one needs to know the number. You can see the numbers here. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because you can save space, right, with removing some of the stuff, right, that you don't need to have. This is just removal. So I don't need the owner. Get rid of that. You don't need the number. Get rid of that column, right? And start date and end date, you can compress. So a couple of ways to do that is, if you really want to, you can put in a date like 07/25/22, right? Don't put the time at all. And if someone hovers over the survey, you can put in a kind of a popover or some kind of information about these dates if you really want to. But just the dates are good enough, right? When the survey is active, it's going to show anyway, right? So they don't need to know when it's going to end, because at the end of the day, when it's active, right? And if it's not active, it's gone, right? That's the thing that I would do. So owner can go away. Start date and end date can compress, can make them smaller, like only show this part in your list I'm talking about, right? And then your status button can change to just the icon when you're compressing. Okay, so that's in when you go to that kind of stuff. Bootstrap has responsive tables. So if I go to, because you guys are using Bootstrap, so let's go to getbootstrap.com just to show you where to get all that stuff, right? So if I was to go to docs, and if I was going to go to, if you look at layout, right, it talks about breakpoints. So breakpoints is what we talked about, right, which is how to include things like small screens, extra small screens. And it talks about the dimensions of the screen, what happens when the screen is this size or whatever, right? So that's important, how to do. And it talks about how you can use either media queries, or you can use your layouts. You can use the grid. So the grid comes with, different column layouts like this, and it talks about how it works, which is interesting. So example, you can say that, you can arrange things in this way as a grid. And it also talks about responsive stuff further down. So if you go to tables, or I think there's an area on, I'm going to have to look it up. They've moved things around, right? So which is fine. Flex, but by default, they're pretty good. Let's just go to a table again. Maybe there's going to be a table component that'll show you. Toasts are really interesting. Toasts are kind of a pop-up like this. This is what I was talking about when it comes to hovering over your survey. If you hover over the survey with your mouse, you can get more information, kind of stuff around that too. It's not that difficult to put into place. So that's what toasts are like a pop-up. Popovers are also another way you can do it. Popovers are neat because they allow you to, kind of put together something like that, when it comes on. So that's another option for you guys. again, these are all features that are very straightforward to put together. They're not too difficult in general, right? So those are the things. But tables is what you have to focus on. So they talk about how to do a table, and I wonder if they have hoverable, active. A lot of times they had the last version of what they had here was responsive table. There it is, responsive tables. Here it is. So they talk about how to do responsive tables, and basically what you do is you put in the class table responsive for horizontally scrolling tables, like we talked about, right? So that's how it works, and that's the table, and you can actually check it here. So again, if I was to take this and look at responsive tables, notice that, see how it's like a scroll bar. What it's supposed to do is adjust based on kind of the size of the table itself. And I guess it's hard to see here with the way it is, but responsive table is supposed to basically shrink in and fit onto a particular on a particular page. So that's how it works. So, but the tricks for me are all around your breakpoints. So if I say small, medium, or large screen, when it's a small screen, you can remove the button. You can say only show the button on, kind of a medium or large screen, like the actual button text, that kind of stuff. So that's the thing that I would do. Okay. So that is part of it. Thinking about responsiveness for your information that you've got here. Answering the survey would be the same. So things like, what does it look like? Because again, you're presenting it in a table format, the survey, the Likert scale here as an example, right? So again, you'd have to make sure that it fits and that you're using responsive design so it fits inside of here. Again, this is all stuff that I would expect anyone to do. So let's go answer survey for this one. This one's not so bad, but again, you can see how it kind of hugs everything exactly. You want a little bit of margin around the edges here. So again, you need to make some adjustments to layout. Other things to note is you've got these kind of rounded corners, which is good. Like I like that. And when you look at the white space is the area that's around the survey itself. Your background is pretty bland. Like I'm talking about in terms of there's nothing there, right? So a lot of sites nowadays, they have some kind of background pattern at the very minimum. I know you guys have this kind of gradient that goes from like a kind of a lighter green to a darker green, almost black at the bottom, which is fine. But I recommend images, like I talked about before. Any kind of images or a pattern or something to make it more interesting when you look at your site. This is okay, but it's kind of the minimum that I would recommend. The About Us page is good. It looks like it's nicely organized and very kind of spaced out exactly, which is really great. I love the way you guys have done this, right? And your contact page, I asked you before. I think I asked you before. Is this working, Elias? Like, is this a working contact page, or is it like just a placeholder?
Well, that's a good question that I just remembered. The send, we want that to send an email, but it's not doing it right now.
All
It's
right,
just
so
we haven't worked on it.
so the way to do it is I recommend Sendgrid. Okay,
Okay.
so Sendgrid. Now you got to be careful about using this API. This is for everybody here. Sendgrid is a free mail relay, kind of technology that they offer you, which is very good. It gives you, you have to register for an API key. Just putting it out there for you, and you must make this private. There's no way you can expose the API key online anyway, not even temporarily. Even if it's a GitHub repo that is now public, but it's going to be private. If you make it on public, it will block you immediately. It'll stop your functionality. So make sure Sendgrid, when you use it, and this is definitely one of them, there's other ones too, but this is a great little mail relay, and it's almost like a standard that people use, kind of across the industry, right? So it's supported by Twilio. which is kind of a pretty good company in terms of what they do, and all they do is this is their business email, kind of email relay, which is pretty cool. It's nice and easy for you to do. So if you go to start for free, it talks about how to register and everything else, and it allows you to connect and everything else. If you look at products, so they have a bunch of different things that you can do. What you really care about is really the kind of how to set it up with Node on the back end. Really, it's a back end thing that it talks about. Here's how to get started in 5 minutes. Like, it's really straightforward. So here's started in 5 minutes. It talks about how to get your API key, create an account, and once you've done that, how to start sending email. And they give you the API reference. The API reference is really excellent, and it talks about, let's say, Node.js. I'm going to give you this link in a second. And if you look at the Node.js part, it talks about how to do it. It talks about how to read it and everything else, and go through it. So here's the introduction. It says how to please read first, and then how to get things done, right? So this is the important piece. So here's it: Sendgrid mail if you just want to send mail, Sendgrid client to use all other features, right? As an example, sending mail is all you need at this point. A contact importer if you want to import from some kind of contact list and stuff like that. We just want this one. That's all you need. And then it talks about how to do it, right? Which is pretty cool. So you install it. This is how you install it right here. And I'm just going to give you that link right now. This is for everybody, not just for Elias, right? If you're going to make it work. So here's the link. And I'll also post this on people who are watching on YouTube, so you can have that as well. And as soon as that you do that, it talks about how to start. One thing you need is a message object. This is the message object here, to, from, subject, text, and HTML. As an example, you need the API key. Notice how the API key is in an environment variable. That's what they recommend, which means on Heroku, you need to set up your API key so it never touches GitHub, ever. Because if you make it so it touches GitHub, right, as an example, and if GitHub is public, they will block you and you will not be able to do this anymore. So this is kind of, they've given you a couple of different ways of doing it. One of them is if you're using ES6. So this is, you set it up like this. And then if you're using ES6, so let's say the older version of ECMAScript, right, not the latest version, you can use promises. So that's how this works. Okay, so you say, I want to send the message. This is the message I want to send, right? And then after I'm done sending the message, if I have an error, I can put it out to the error, blah, blah. This is very simple to do, okay? The other way to do it with the latest version of ECMAScript is use Async Await. So this is okay to do. We haven't really talked about how to use Async Await, but if you wanted to do this way, it works just as well, and there's nothing against it. The only thing is that it'll wait for a response to come back in before we know that there's an issue and all that kind of stuff. However, I'm going to tell you that this is probably the easiest way to get it done up here. Okay. So what do you do with this part? Well, all this stuff to, from, subject, text, and HTML, all this stuff, it comes from your form. So if I go back to your lovely form here, so you put in the user puts in their name and email address and subject and comments. And then basically what happens is this email, right, which is here, gets filled in here to, it's you guys, to admin at, in this case, might be something like, Mantis surveys, or whatever your thing is, Mantis developers, mantisdev.com, let's say. There isn't such a thing, but you'd send it to you guys. Someone would have to have a receiving email address. And again, I don't recommend setting up an email address just for this. So maybe one of your email addresses is okay, right? So maybe whoever owns maybe your project manager or your lead software engineer could have that come to them for testing. Again, this is purely for testing. In real life, it would go to their, to the email address. So here, as an example, rlopez@my.centennialcollege.ca. You wouldn't put that here, right? Because you don't ever want to expose your email address kind of in a contact list. And the phone number is okay. Like this idea is okay if you're going to have, if this is the phone number for Centennial. But definitely try and avoid putting your email address on a website. And the reason for this is if you do, you can get spammed like crazy. People will send you a bunch of mail. That's why you have contact forms in the first place, not because of this. If I just have this, I don't need this, right? Because I can just send you an email, right? So don't put typical knowledge, or I would say wisdom. Typical wisdom is don't put your email, don't expose your email address here. Get them to send you an email directly, through your form if possible, right? Unless the email address you're exposing is an address for spam and for every kind of mail, and you have really great spam filters and all that kind of stuff, then you're okay, right? Some people do that too. But what you do is as soon as you put in the email address here and subject and all that kind of stuff, you send it. And what you want in your contact form is a response, some kind of message header that's in your contact form, just like we have in the login form or in the register form, using something like Connect Flash that says, thank you for your message. Your message has been sent. You clear the form and you just say that at the top, right? So some kind of simple functionality for your contact form. Again, it sounds like a lot. It really is not. All right. But you need to get this working. If you offer a contact form, you need it to work. Okay. That's the way it's got to be. So that's Node Sendgrid, and a pretty simple way of doing it. And you go right through like I said, Sendgrid Mail. So Sendgrid Mail is what you're using. You're actually using their service to relay. You're not sending anything directly. And they're going to, basically this email is going to come to you. Okay. So that's how it works. Any questions around this from anybody here? I think it's pretty straightforward, to be honest, right? But and again, it's not a lot of functionality. You still have a lot of time to test and implement this from now until next week. Okay, so that is Sendgrid. That's what I recommend. It's straightforward. It's no problem, and it's pretty good. Back to this stuff. Okay, so this is the form we're going to. Your login form again. It's nice, rounded corners and all that kind of stuff. So again, for all these pages, one of the simplest ways to improve things is some kind of a background that's a little bit more layered or textured than what this looks like right here. Some people also do things like they have some images or some motion. Like right now, what's happening with your website, it's pretty static. There's nothing going on. It's not like it's eye popping or moving or anything else. And look, even if we went back to Twilio as an example, let's look at the website that's done from before. Notice that what they've got, I'm just looking at this side we just looked at, right? What they've got here is, again, some images, right? Brighter colors, motion when you kind of hover over different things for stuff. Again, basics. We're not even talking about this. This is very interactive, but at least they have, some basic things that they've got going on here, right? So if I go back to their main site, which is sendgrid.com, right? Then again, you can see images. There's some kind of what looks like a short little video that they've got embedded here. I don't expect videos from you guys, but I'm just talking about kind of best practices for professional sites, right? What they look like, where they have kind of animated GIFs, or you can see that there's some motion here to improve interest when you're looking at a front page, a landing page like this one. You have a lot of like these hero buttons that'll take you to different places in their site where it says learn more, take a tour. All this stuff encourages you to connect, right? And all that kind of stuff. So again, very basic things that we can look at. Why Sendgrid? They have a story about it. They talk about if I want to do an overview about what Sendgrid is about, they have a bit of a page of information about it. Who their people that they've worked with before, which are pretty big. I mean, eBay and Meetup and all these other people. Different kinds of resources that they offer, different guides, to connect and everything else that they, But you can see that there's images on every page, and I know that it's not impossible to get stuff like this. This is kind of like stock photos that you can probably find. These are actually custom images. They've hired somebody to make all this, right? So again, I don't expect you to be anywhere near like, customized like this, because you can see that all the images are very, kind of the same. They've hired an artist clearly to do all this work, from one, kind of one page to the other. So these are all things that, again, we're just looking at an example of a site that's good. And then when it comes to responsiveness, how responsive is it, right? Because we want to be able to look at a site that's responsive. So for the most part, it looks okay. There are some blurriness issues. So even for their site, it's a little blurry. And typically, what you want to do with responsive web design is remove any kind of blurry things. The good thing is margin. Here's what I was talking about: margin on the side that they've got built in, so it fits on a kind of an orientation, kind of a portrait orientation landscape. Kind of stuff where it fits a menu that collapses, like similar to what Bootstrap gives us, right? Where if I click on any one of these things, again, it kind of puts everything together in this kind of format. And let's go to email automation. Anything that's in here again fits onto the page. When this is kind of as much as possible, kind of pretty good in terms of the way it's laid out, almost like little cards that have been created, little cards, content cards. So that's kind of, I'm just looking at Sendgrid as an example. Okay, so that's Elias, that's what I would recommend for you. Do a little bit of more from a layout perspective. Some images would be nice that kind of match with your the idea of your site. So okay, fine, Mantis Dev, your to Mega Survey. Maybe there's some kind of images you can put here that are more that make your site a little bit more interesting, kind of stuff other than just like the green, as an example. So what are your thoughts, Elias? Do you think any of this stuff is doable before the next week or no?
Sounds good. The feedback is good overall. Yeah. Yeah, we will definitely we'll go for it. We will try. I think we can, but
yeah, I think so too, Ricardo. And I think you guys can totally do it. I don't think it's impossible. It's just watch your responsive design. And there's some ways of testing it, remember? So remember, one of the key ways is if I press Control Shift J, as an example, then if you look, so if I look at elements on the page, you can see that these are the elements. I can go through it, and I can go through each of the elements on the page and look at this, right? But remember, what this also does is it allows us to kind of look at your site. And notice on the top left corner here, there's this thing that looks like a little phone. If I click onto there, all of a sudden now you can see, let's go back to that. You can see what it would look like if your site was, so it says dimensions responsive, and what would this look like, from a responsive design perspective. So actually, it kind of acts more of like a phone, okay? And you can switch it out. Let's say, for example, if you had, you can select a common phone that you want. So I want to use the iPhone XR. What would it look like if you have an iPhone? And then if I go to your survey list, what does it look like? And this is what it looks like on an iPhone, approximately. Of course, the best way is to actually look at an iPhone and see, or an Android phone, and see what you actually see when you go to the site, right? So one way to do this and to prove this out, excuse me, one way to do that is you can connect a phone to it, right, as an example, and then if you want to, kind of demonstrate your phone, you can use a little free app called Visor. So if you guys go to visor.io, here's visor.io. And if you download this thing, you can connect your phone to your machine. And so you can actually kind of demo what it would look like on your phone itself if you're interested. So here's Visor, right? I'm just going to bring up Visor for me in a second because I've already downloaded it. I'm just going to log into my phone here. And to show you what it looks like on a real phone. And I guys, I thank you, Elias and Ricardo and team. So here is my phone that that I kind of I have a test phone that I can use, and I can view the device, and it's connecting. And this is what the phone would actually look like, right? So then if I was to type in there, and let's say I type in your link, right? So if I go back to here, and let's just grab this link here. Let's see. This is the great thing about Visor. It allows you to control your phone too. I believe you can do one of those. Yep. And if I go to it, it'll show me exactly what your It'll show me exactly what your phone will your site will look like on my phone. This is like literally on my phone, so you can see what it looks like. And okay, so notice some stuff like for the phone itself, how it's cut off here. Welcome to Mega Surveys. So it's there. It's again, things that you could think about is actually putting it on and testing it on a device and what it looks like. So if I go to survey list, this is actually what it looks like. Okay, so this is what the survey list looks like. This is your About Us page. About Us page looks pretty good. I probably would adjust things like the content in here so that it doesn't overflow. See how this overflows? That is something that you probably want to adjust, right? The pictures look like they're okay, just the text needs to be adjusted. Again, more of a responsive thought. The contact page works okay, all right, but the send button is kind of a little bit messed up. And then you have extra information here that is overflowing again, right? And then the same thing goes with your login page. Login page looks okay. In fact, that's probably so far the best page of them all. You can see that you probably want a little bit of margin on both sides here, and probably the same thing with your register page in terms of margins, right? But in terms of the survey list, this is the place where you have the most work to do, because it's like you got this. If I answer a survey, this is what it actually looks like. So it really doesn't fit at all on a phone right now. And it also look at this weird stuff that's going on here because of the way that the phone breaks up the what's done. One thing to do is the phone is also responsive. So if I actually turn the phone on its side, right, it actually does kind of a landscape layout as well for this one. Again, the resolution isn't that great, but again, we don't really care about the resolution so much. Let's just refresh here. We go back to so here's something else, right? So if I press this and let's just go to, I'm just going to erase all this stuff here. So we just go to the front page, because this definitely has got an issue. So here's the front page now. If someone was going to look at this in landscape format, right? So this pulls up, you can see the survey list, and the survey list doesn't look as bad because it's kind of a regular width and compressed height. That's the kind of format you're working in right now. Regular width and compressed height. So it's not so bad. But see how the dates really make a difference? You want to get rid of this. If you got rid of this, compress the dates, got rid of the number, you'd have more space for all this stuff, even in this format here. So here's your survey, and you can see how this would look, right, in terms of how the response would be. Also, one thing you notice is when you kind of test your stuff out, guys, this is for everybody here, not just for our friends here at Mega Survey. Please don't put test stuff like this. Okay, so remember, I want you to remove any lorem ipsum, any kind of placeholder text like this from any place in your survey itself, in your site, because otherwise, it's not professional. Get them to whoever's going to put this, make an actual real survey, and so that it's a good test for you guys, to make this work. Okay, and again, watch when I kind of change my orientation to this, what happens, right? How the orientation breaks your app. So think about orientation changes, right? And what happens when I do that with my phone. So these are things you have to think about as part of your final release. Great thing about our Visor, you can always just close it off and it's done. You can connect any device, iOS or Android devices, which is pretty cool. So that's pretty good. And it's free. So, all right. So back to you. Questions about the stuff we've talked about for anybody here. I know, Elias, we kind of use your site as a guinea pig site. I'm using it for testing and demo, but it could be anybody's site that I'm talking about here. Any thoughts at all, guys? Any worries? It's not that bad, and it's built into Bootstrap. If you look at the Bootstrap classes, there's a lot you can do. Go ahead, Elias.
Yeah, no, sounds good. We will go for it. We're not designers, but we will try.
Well, that's the point. The point is you learn by doing, right? So you do your best. I don't expect you guys to be perfect by any means. Like the stuff I'm talking about is just general comments. I'm not asking you to be perfect, just like I never asked you to be perfect with your other individual work, right? But now we're at the last point and we're trying to make it as polished as possible. Okay. Let's move on to someone else. Let's see. Is anyone else also willing to share their stuff? We'll do one more, and then we'll stop for today for the demos. And then we'll go on to what I'm looking for from a presentation perspective. Anybody? Does anyone have anyone else want to show me their stuff? Okay. If you don't, totally cool. Or if you're not ready, that's fine too. But again, thank you for the people at Mega Survey, the people who've come up with this, Elias, Ricardo, and all the other people that are working to get the site where it is today. I think it's really good. Lots of stuff that's happening, and especially the functionality, guys. You guys have done great work on the functionality already. So that's really something to be proud of, and definitely a portfolio piece when you guys are finished, which is what the whole point of this whole thing is. The outcome is, if you're going to show this to an interviewer and say, look, we worked on this, we made it responsive, we did all this stuff. There's a lot of work that goes into this, and really, the work is all in the details, right? The little details that I talked about. Okay, so that's this part. We talked about Sendgrid. Thank you very much for that, and I'm going to move on to the next piece, which is the presentation. Okay, so I said no tech discussion, but it kind of was a tech discussion, but more on the email side. Let's move into this part. So the final presentation, which is happening next week. What are you expected to do? And I kind of did a small lead into this last week on Wednesday. I talked about the final presentation. So one thing is you'll be presenting it and you'll be rated on 3 different things when your presentation is created. One of them is, kind of your presentation material. So these are the 3 things: your presentation materials, your presentation value, and your actual live presentation or demo video. Those are the 3 things you're going to be, you're going to be rated on. Okay. So let's talk about your presentation materials. It should be either on a PowerPoint or Google Slides or something like that is accessible by me. So please, if you're a Mac person and you want to use something else, like, I don't know, I prefer, if you don't mind, to either export it to a PDF if you're gonna submit the presentation, or Google Slides or PowerPoint is fine. Okay. I'm just talking about if it's some other format other than Google Slides or PowerPoint. When you use it, I want you to use your presentation as a background, like you're talking to the presentation. Be prepared to discuss each of the slides. And I highly recommend not to read your slides. So a couple of points, bullet points, with what I'm talking about. Slides in general. So if we're going to look at slides, let's make a presentation slide here as an example. This is not a teaching slide. This is a presentation slide. So maximum 3 bullet points. So you would have, bullet point 1, bullet point 2, and bullet point 3. This is the maximum that I recommend per slide with images. Okay, that's what I recommend. Sometimes bullet points will also have subtopic, right? Whatever the subtopics are going to be. So you have a subtopic there, and maybe there'll be another subtopic here, and that's fine. Okay, might have some subtopics, maybe even a couple of them. All right. The reason why this is why, maximum, bullet points. So, and I always recommend something like, if you're going to have subtopics, maximum 3 subtopics per bullet point. So it's like 3 and 3. So again, you see how this fills up the page, right? And some people like to also, instead of making it so it's kind of left aligned, some people like to do it, kind of middle because they're presenting something. It really doesn't matter to me as long as you just kind of intersperse this with images. So it's not just text. I don't want to read walls of text. As an example, I talked about what that means last week. But basically, if you have a wall of text, so this whole slide is just text and there's no images, it doesn't make sense. So what could I do to improve this? Right. Well, if I'm talking about your site, let's suppose I'm talking about our friends from. Let's go to Mantis. Here it is, COMP229. Let's suppose I want to talk about our friends who just went right now. Maybe I want to take a screenshot, and you can use screenshot technologies like ShareX or something else like that to grab a screenshot here, as an example, and include that in your PowerPoint. Like, it's nothing wrong with doing that kind of stuff. Make it more interesting than, what it would be like, as an example, as opposed to, like making it boring. We don't want it to be boring. We want it to be, spaced out properly. And, you want to talk about stuff, in your slides when you start off, like, why do we do it? All the stuff that I've asked you to do, but intersperse this text with images is what I'm saying. So going back to this, the title page, the first page of your slide deck, and the title page should have your team logo and a screenshot of your final web application. What does it look like? You'll have your roles slide, so slide number 2. And when I say slide, where it says one slide, I put some slide recommendations in here. Guys, this is the minimum number of slides. If you need more slides than one, do it. Okay? But make sure also it makes sense. Like, for example, if you're going to talk at length about the people in your group, right, and it takes up a large portion of your presentation, that also doesn't make sense. You have to balance it with everything else I'm asking you to do in the time that you have. So that's why I recommend one slide for this, right? But if you needed 2 slides because you had, let's say, a group of 10 people and you wanted to show 5 people on one slide and 5 people on the other side, or let's say a 3 and 3 for a group of 6 people, that's fine. You can do that, talk about everything in the roles a little bit. Your web application overview is one slide, and a lot of times you want to talk about what's, kind of here's what type of site is it that you made? Is it a survey site? Is it a tournament site? What is it? And one or more slides, it says about planning. So planning is where, you describe things that you did not implement, stuff that you wanted to do, and kind of where you were thinking when you first started off. Think about the beginning of your journey when you first started off week 8, if you can think back that far. How did it look for you, when you were still planning? Were you thinking about doing React? Were you thinking about doing Angular? Were you thinking about stuff? Why didn't you get that done? Why couldn't you implement those features? What was your planning like? Did you meet every Wednesday? What did you do? How do you use your site? So this is where it says one or more slides again. And here what you could do is take screenshots of different parts of your site. Again, going with Elias's site and Ricardo's site that we just saw. If I was going to do is, a how-to, then you can take screenshots like, okay, well, for the how-to, you want to go here, you kind of take a shot of this one, talk about your main page, go to, as an example, let's suppose this is the how-to or the instructions, let's suppose. And then bullet point 1, maybe what you want to talk about is things like, you can start by clicking in this button. So you kind of start here. And I'm saying this is just some thoughts for you guys. So this is not the only way to do this, but you can start by basically, doing stuff like this. You want to kind of click on the button. It'll take you to this. Make some bullet points that kind of associate with what you're doing there here on the page, because you're kind of putting together a little how-to about how to make use of your page. You can say something like one way, and you can kind of break this out here a little bit. One of the ways to connect or to create a survey is to click the create survey button. You can talk about that and how this works as an example. So that's kind of something that you can do there. And your instructions should go through the entire site. So there's like a lot of little PowerPoint pieces. Guys, this is enough with all the other stuff that I've given you, the layout stuff, the reporting pieces, the functionality, that there's other people in your team that you can engage to get this done. Don't try and do it alone. If you're someone who's been really working very hard to try and keep up with all the work and everything else, and you've been holding the team together by doing all the technical work and all the other stuff, this is not something you can delegate some of this work, okay, to someone else. Get them to do all this stuff, or break it up. Break it so that one person does the whole site demo stuff with the same structure and layout and colors and everything else that your slide deck looks like. By the way, before we move on, slide deck, I mean, you want to customize this, eh? Like this is Centennial as an example, but please don't use a standard slide deck. Like, you, as an example, if I was to, from a design perspective, if I chose one of these default themes, I'm just going to choose something like people do all the time. Like, for example, they choose something like this. There's my theme, and here's my thing. Guys, don't do this. Okay? Don't do a theme like this. Even though you might think it looks good and all that kind of stuff, it's a standard theme. Make your own is what I'm saying. Okay? So that's the thing that you want to do. Make it so that you can select your own, you can create your own colors, your own background. Maybe you want to have, if I'm making something for Mega Survey and Manta Dev, then Manta should be on every corner. Like maybe I want to take that logo, as an example, going back to here. So let's see if I can grab that logo, copy the image, and maybe put it inside of my, kind of my PowerPoint slide. So there's my Manta logo. And maybe what I want to do, is I want to put it at the top of each of my slides, as an example, right? I don't know, right? So that at least it's there every single time, right? Something that makes it so that it's unique, this whole thing, right? As opposed to, and that's just like really simple stuff, plus the colors that should match. If you're going to make that green, kind of light gray, green color scheme, then you do that for all the slides, right? But I highly recommend the background should be light. And watch your contrast when it comes to if I can read your text or not. Text should be clearly, clear. Even your screenshots, like see how I can see what this says here. That's what you want. You don't want it so that it's too small. Like you don't want a screenshot to be like this big, right? That's my screenshot, and you can hardly see what this says. That's not good. That's not a good screenshot. Okay, so going back to this, so that's your site demo. First is your instructions, and then you do the site demo. So the site demo is like literally a slide that says something like slide demo. So let me just go in to make a new slide here, new slide. And then this would be, site demo, right? And then, and something like you want to put some kind of thing here that says live demo, now kind of thing. And then, some other kind of image here that you can get going. Some people think that they want to embed their video here, and that's what they want to do. If that's what you want to do and you want to pre-record your video for your live demo, you may. Okay, so you can actually, instead of you talking, if you want to record a video on YouTube and you want to kind of do a one and done and kind of talk about your site demo, which is separate, how to use your site and all that stuff live, you can certainly do that. Right, or you can do the live demo here, and when you're recording, you can just skip to the live demo. So here, let's suppose I'm doing it live. I would skip over to their site and go, okay, guys. So hi, my name is Tom, and here I'm representing Mega Survey, blah blah blah, and go through the entire functionality. Okay, that's what you would do with the site demo. It's only one real slide that you need. It's almost like a separator more than anything else, and you may want to design it that way. So for example, instead of making it like a content slide, which is what this looks like, think about a layout, like maybe you want to do some kind of separator, right? Site demo, right? And you just kind of take that away. And so that's kind of the time you want to do that, right? Okay. I don't know. I mean, like there's some suggestions here you can use for Microsoft as well. It's even though it's kind of, simplistic, or whatever, it's not, there's nothing wrong with doing some kind of motion on your presentation as well, right? So again, you don't want to be too generic, but something like this is okay. And then after you do your site demo, then you do your team retrospective and you talk about the challenges you and your team had. It says one slide. Some people may use more than one slide, especially if they want to talk about different kind of challenges on different slides, right? It's perfectly fine. Things like we had communication challenges, we had group member challenges. We had people in our group that didn't do what they said they're going to do, you know. We had GitHub challenges, technical challenges. We had challenges with our site. You know, we had problems. We thought we were going to do something like this. Our database structure was a challenge for us, right? We never covered that in class, Tom, and you know, we learned how to do that on our own. Awesome, that's great. These are conversations you can talk about. We had a real challenge in the last week, Tom. You gave us Sendgrid, and you know what? It looked easy, but then when we tried to incorporate it, it was actually quite hard, right? You know, these are things that you can talk to, you know, and also talk about not just technical challenges, but team challenges. What would you do if you could do it again? If you could do it differently, how would you, kind of go forward with your project? Think about this as one or more slides, okay? And finally, your future possibilities. If you're given more time, and if you had more time, if you could take this thing further, what would you do? Right? Would you include React? Would you, have a different kind of backend instead of Node? Would you change your database? Would you make it into an app, like an actual, Android app or iOS app, whatever? Would you have chosen a different project altogether? Like, there's lots of stuff that you can put in here. Features that you can also discuss, features that you could not possibly have completed, and all that kind of stuff. But the retrospective is like a lesson learned, and a future possibility slide is like, what if I could take this further? If I could dream for a second, where would I go? So that is your materials. Your materials is 1/3 of the presentation weight. So please don't take it lightly. Remember that the presentation is worth 15% of your final grade, so 1/3 is 5% of your final grade. Pretty much is your materials, right? What does it look like? The other part is, I'm not going to go to the short video yet, is your presentation value. In other words, who you decide to present. So we had some really, I've had some real confident people come up and talk today with me. People like Elias and Ricardo, and I've also had Bhupinder. I've talked to Bhupinder today, as well as Paul. Any one of those people that I've talked with today, or anyone I talk to normally, anyone can present. But I don't recommend multiple presenters in this, like switching between slides. I don't recommend that. I don't think it works great for most people unless you're really, really, confident and you've worked together a lot and you know each other very well. It can really be disruptive. And remember, the people that are watching your presentation, this is for you for forever. The people watching your presentation can be distracted by this kind of stuff, right? So, because they're like, wait, now we're switching presenters. Unless it's a transition that is like, okay, I'm doing the first half and you're doing the second half. It's, switching between the two or playing off each other, unless you guys are comedians, isn't going to work that great, okay? So one person is what I recommend the entire time. You could have a second person, like I said last week, that only does the technical stuff, right? So for example, I'm just going to use, let's suppose Paul and Bhupinder are on the same team. Let's just suppose, right? As an example. And let's suppose Paul starts off with the presentation, and Bhupinder does the technical part, the actual demo. That's fine, because you're handing it off to the other person, and then Bhupinder would kind of hand it back over to Paul, and Paul would finish it off. That's okay. But it's also okay if, let's say, for example, I'm just going to pull another name out of here, because I've talked about these gentlemen a lot. Let's talk about Rajan. Let's say, for example, Rajan decides for her entire team to do the presentation. She wants to do the demo too, and she does everything. That's fine too, right? It's okay to do one person. I don't need every single person talking on the team, right? So again, that's another role that you can assign to a team member, especially if you've been already tied together with, doing technical work, layout design, all this other stuff. Also, I highly recommend, guys, giving it to somebody who wants to do it, who loves to present. If you're someone who doesn't want to present and you're stuck with presenting, you're not going to do a great job for the team, which is going to drive down your mark. I'm going to look at confidence. Do you know your material? Is it professional? Are you ad-libbing? I don't want you to ad-lib. I want you to be prepared for what you're saying and all that kind of stuff. Are you happy? Do you like your product? Like, that you're making? Sometimes I get presenters who are like, yeah, this is my thing. We kind of did this, Tom. It was really hard and we didn't really want to do this, but there was nothing better for us to do. Like, don't tell me those things. For you, this is the best product on the planet when you're talking to me, okay? There's no better site than your site. That's how I want you to present. I want you to sell this thing as if it's the best thing that you've ever seen in your life, okay? And because this way, and smile when you're talking, all that kind of stuff, because if you do that, it's going to come across way better and happier than if you were like, oh, well, don't be like that. And get into that mood, that when you're presenting, when you're doing your video, super happy and lots of energy, okay? So that's where I'm going to go there with this stuff. So that's the the presentation piece, and like your live. That's you being live, your value, and then there's the video. So the video is required. It's not an option, okay? And what I recommend is make the video first. Don't wait for you to present to me and then make the video second. Make the video first. It's a good opportunity for you to practice, right? Practice your presentation, and get an opportunity to go through it and record it properly. You can do that like this week or by the end of the week when you're done as soon as you're done your technical stuff, get it done like as soon as possible, right? So don't wait, because remember, this is like next week we're talking about, like a week from now. Make sure I can hear you. Check the video, guys. Sometimes I've seen videos that I can't even hear what you're saying, right? It's got to be pretty good. Use a good mic, right? I need to be able to see your screen. I don't need to see your face. Okay, so some people are like, do I need to embed my image on the video like you do, Tom, when you do YouTube videos? No, you don't. If you want to, you can, and that's great. I think it adds to the interaction piece of it, but you don't have to. It's an option. Okay, it's totally up to you if you want to do that or not. And just in general, those are the things. So your video, it has to demonstrate everything that I'm talking about, and it covers not just your demo, but also your PowerPoint. It's almost like I'm doing a video and the background, I'm starting off with my PowerPoint, I talk to it, and I might be a little talking head in the bottom right or bottom left corner of my screen. If you want to do that, it's totally up to you. And then you talk to your stuff, and it's a pre-recorded version of your whole presentation. Why? Why am I asking you to do, both potentially, right? Well, because what if you can't make it on Monday? What if, God forbid, there's some kind of internet, disruption or something like that, or whatever. What if we can't get to you because we're just, we're going from one presentation to another and it takes 15 minutes per presentation, let's just say. Or what if you're not ready on Monday and you're ready on Wednesday, right? So, and maybe by Wednesday even you're not ready. I'm still giving you the option to submit it, guys. This is 15% of your final grade. It's your final exam, right? So it's a backup for me. It's an opportunity for me to see the stuff that you've talked about again if I'm putting together my marks and everything else at the end, right? And that's why it's important for you to have the video that's as good as possible, all right? And also think about this way: you've recorded yourself, so the most amazing thing is you can always show this stuff off. If you're the presenter, especially. Again, it's another opportunity for the presenter or even for the team to kind of showcase their product, okay? That's what I'm looking for when it comes to your presentation, I think, in a nutshell. You could add additional slides. For example, if you wanted to talk about, technology that you were using, you can add that in as a slide. So let's say for example, before you get into the instructions, in the planning area, you could talk about your features, how you implemented them, the technology you used, your platform, your IDE that you're using, and sometimes also people add things that they learned, like things that you learned that weren't covered in other courses. Maybe you talk about things like, hey, we learned how to do TypeScript in this course, right? And we learned how to do other things. Like these are the things that, again, you want to highlight for yourself, things that you think are important for you and your team. You can put other slides is what I'm saying. Again, the whole package that you're going to present, your video shouldn't run more than about 10 minutes-ish, maybe a little longer if you want to. But at the end of the day, your final presentation for next week live should be 10 to 15, and be prepared for questions from me, from everyone else, feedback, all that kind of stuff. Okay. Whew. That covers most of it. Any questions from me now? Back to you from the stuff we just talked about. I'm just going to get rid of these slides, and we don't need them. And anyone can come on to talk about those things. So outcome from the course, right? We talked about outcomes. One of them is technical outcomes, right? Which is, I want you guys to know Node. You guys should be comfortable with Node and Express at this point, because that's what we really focused on. It would be nice to have React and Angular, some kind of front-end framework, right? You also know MongoDB, those technologies, and a higher level of JavaScript than you knew when you first did your COMP229, your intro to JavaScript. At this point, you should be much more confident with working with web technologies than you were before. That's one of the outcomes of the course, okay? The other outcome of the course is the business essential employability skills, all right? Those transferable skills we're just talking about right now, which is part of your presentation. That stuff is also part of the course. How to discuss your project, how to talk about your features, all that stuff, which is, in my opinion, super important. You need to know how to do that stuff. And that's why I'm asking you to do it here. It's kind of a great mix of tech and working together. And that's another one. Another real important outcome is, how do I really work together effectively as a team? Like, how do I do that? Establishing yourself as a leader. I'm the project manager. I'm the lead software engineer. I'm the web designer. Those are really other things. Stepping up and asserting yourself, being confident with what you're doing. These are all other good things that you're learning, other than just the tech part. Okay, we're all programmers here. Okay, we also have to communicate our ideas, and that's one of the things that I'm asking you guys to do. All right, questions, comments, concerns, anything? If not, we'll end it today. We'll end it right here. And I have some people that I got to talk to afterwards. That if for those people who I have to talk to, you stick around. All right, guys. Hopefully this was informative. I wanted you to make sure that you know everything that I'm expecting. We saw one site, and again, I would say big shout out goes to Elias and to Ricardo and the people that made the mega surveys and Mantis developer team, because they were the ones that stepped up today, and we used them. So thank you so much, and for the patience that you showed, me giving you feedback and using you as the example. So big shout out goes to you guys, but thank you so much. I think you guys are doing great, and I'm looking forward to seeing your final presentation next week. Okay, so I'm going to stop it here, and I'll take any other questions directly after this. All right, recording is stopped. Any